Yeah.
Opo, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is February 18. It's a Thursday, and this will be my video lecture in Chameleon Values and Virtues. No. Yesterday we started talking about another learning theory, which is constructivism. No, the constructivist learning theory. So I told you yesterday also that some of the philosophers, psychologists, and even educators who are involved in cognitivist learning theory are also contributors to what we call cognitivism or the cognitivist learning theory. To cite an example, it would be Jean Piaget, no? So Jean Piaget is a cognitivist and a constructivist at the same time because he has his work uh, on what we call uh, cognitivist cognitive constructivism. Okay, so he calls his theory again cognitive constructivism. Similarly, for Brunner, he is also a constructivist at the same time. No, he is a cognitivist and also a constructivist because he is the proponent of what we call social constructivism and so on and so forth. Now, so yesterday I discussed to you some principles, no, some principles or elements of constructivism. By way of a review, let us start. There are actually I will be discussing actually 8 principles or elements of constructivism. No, so the first one, as we have discussed yesterday, the nature of constructivism is that knowledge is constructed. No, knowledge is constructed. So how do we construct knowledge? When we say we construct knowledge, we give meanings. No, we give meanings to certain things. No, that is what we are constructing, or that is what we are building up. No, we build up our knowledge based on, what did I say again? Based on these are the foundations, no, foundations of uh, prior knowledge, no, of prior knowledge meaning you already know something before. No, foundations would be, one would be what we call your background as a learner, no, your background. Second, of course, would be your prior knowledge or previous knowledge, no, previous, the things that you already know. And then the third would be your experiences, no, and also the things that you get through your interactions with other people, and some would include even your beliefs. No? So these are the foundations of prior knowledge. You already know something based on all these items. No? So that is how we construct meanings or system of meanings that we call. No? So that one, we construct knowledge by our own. So when we construct, definitely each individual is given the opportunity to construct his knowledge in his own unique way because all these are definitely personal in nature. So that's knowledge is constructed. The second is people learn to learn as they learn. That's why I told you yesterday, say for instance, when we say people learn to learn as they learn, meaning to say that the what we mean here is that it involves what constructing messages or constructing what we call meanings, no, constructing. And how do you construct the meaning? Of course, we construct based on what we already know, previous knowledge, those items there, no, through our schemas. No, I think that's one of your assignments about schemas. So you better read something about schemas because I will not be discussing that at length today because that is your assignment. So you just have to summarize what is meant by schemas. The third principle is, of course, learning is an active process. It's not a passive one. No, it's an active process. When we say it's an active process, what we're talking about is uh, you get involved, you get connected with something, or you engage yourself in something by the use of your sensory inputs. No, your sensory inputs, of course, all your senses. No, you cannot learn, or there is no learning, or you cannot acquire knowledge by just sitting down. That is what I mean by passive. No, passive. It's a passive activity. No, we learn through the use of our sensory inputs, and when we say sensory inputs, we have to use our eyes, our mouth, our minds, everything, even our hands. No, because these are all senses, all our senses. So you cannot just be sitting down and then you acquire knowledge based on just that. No, you need to engage yourself in discussions, in group work, also in reading, etc. So it's an active process. The fourth principle that constructivism is or relies on would be learning is a social activity. No, social activity. When we talk of learning as a social activity, you need to connect with other people. No, there should be interaction, there should be discussion, there should be sharing of what we say, sharing of ideas with other people. And when you share ideas, it's not only among your peers. No, yung peer involvement, your peers would be your barkada. It's not only that, but even to your parents, your teachers, and even acquaintances. No, it's really a social activity. You cannot just learn by, say, for instance, just like now we have the alternative mode of learning, which is doing it online. There is something lacking there, no? Because what we mean by social activity is that we interact personally with one another. It's not through online, because we cannot also discount the possibility that uh, if you are engaging online, you cannot see everything there. No, even the way a person reacts, or even the way a person thinks in an appropriate way, you cannot just decipher that. No, you need to interact in person. No, with other people. And when I say other people, it might involve your acquaintances, your peers, your friends, your teachers, your neighbors, etc., etc., because it's a social activity. Okay, we proceed with the fifth principle of constructivism, and that is learning is contextual. This is the fifth one. This is the fifth one. Learning is contextual. No, context. You take it through the appropriate context. No, the term is context. And when we talk of context, definitely you do not isolate. No, there is no, you don't isolate. Don't isolate ideas or theories, because everything has to be connected. No, you connect ideas and theories with what you already know. No, you connect ideas or theories with what you already know. You cannot divorce what you already know from the new ideas that you are assimilating. So that's why we always say, no, you have to discuss the idea in the proper context. No, proper context meaning to say, do not isolate, but take it as a whole. No, take it as a whole to get the appropriate meaning. No, the appropriate, that is what we say by contextual, to get the appropriate meaning. No, do not just isolate. Just like, say, for instance, if you are reading the Bible, you take the entirety of the Bible and just do not just pick some verses and then you interpret it that way. No, it's not that. No, you take the idea or the theory as a whole, then you get the meaning out of that. Okay, so that's the fifth principle or fifth element of cognitivism. Now, the sixth is, of course, learning is a personal affair. Learning is a personal affair. Why personal? No? Why personal? Personal affair. This is the sixth, no? It's not the fifth, but it's the sixth. Why personal? Well, because we have our own background, no? We go back again to the foundation of prior knowledge, no? We have our own background, we have our own set of experiences, we have our own set of interactions, then we have our own set of prior knowledge, no? Prior knowledge. And this one, because of this, even beliefs, no? Even beliefs, and this one would make us unique by ourselves, no? And no person can bring in the same experience because our experiences are different from one another, no? Because we are dealing with different people, we are dealing with different problems, we are dealing with different items or ways of learning things, no? So these ones, it becomes a personal affair because of this, no? Every individual has his own background, every person has his own experience, every person has his own interest, no? Every person has previous knowledge different from the others, beliefs, no? Every person has different ways of interacting, no? Interactions with other people. So it cannot be that two persons are alike. No? So learning is a personal affair. The word here is personal. This makes it as the sixth element of what we call constructivism. No? So the seventh one would be, of course, learning. Seventh element is that learning exists in the where? Of course, in the mind. No? Nowhere else but in the mind. So this is the seventh element. No? Learning exists in the mind. Of course, we can use our hands, we can use our bodily movements, we can use our, say for instance, everything that we do on our physical body or motor skills. But this is not enough. You need to engage your mind, engage the mind. For what? For what reason? Why do you have to engage the mind? Well, for proper retention of knowledge. No retention. This is the purpose why you have to engage the mind. You have to retain certain things that you know and you do not know yet. No, so it is not enough that we use our body in learning. No, it is not enough that we use our hands, that we use all our senses. But learning is more of the mind. It involves what we call mental processes, no, or cognitive processes. That is what we call by learning exists in the mind. And then finally, of course, the eighth principle of constructivism is that learning requires motivation. No? Learning requires motivation. That's why when you become teachers someday, for those who are taking education, it is very important that you motivate the learner first before going to the lesson proper. No, you need to motivate them in some way. So some would do, say for instance, storytelling, some would do some singing activities, some would do physical exercises, etc., etc. That is, you have to make the learner, make the learner ready to take the lesson. Okay, to take the lesson. Because a learner who is unmotivated will have difficulty assimilating and accommodating new information. Make the learner ready always, no? Because if you do not motivate, definitely it will not sink in. That is the term that we use nowadays. It will not sink in to the minds of the learner. So this is the eighth principle of constructivism. So I'd like you all to memorize these principles of the cognitivist learning theory, like constructivist learning theory. Now, I mentioned last time, and this is also your assignment, the three what? The three categories or kinds of constructivism, no? Which is your assignment. No, I'd like you to summarize what we call cognitive construct construction constructi sorry constructivism. No, so cognitive constructivism. That's the first kind or category. The second is what we call social constructivism. The third is what we call radical constructivism. So this one, the proponent of cognitive constructivism is by Jean Piaget, which we also discussed in cognitivism. This one, the proponent of social constructivism is by Vygotsky. No? Vygotsky. You still remember him? Lev Vygotsky. And this one, it's a new educator, a German educator by the name of Ernst von Shakespeare. No, I ran out already. Shakespeare. No, of the those are the proponents of the three categories or kinds of constructivism. So I'd like you to summarize first all the categories or kinds of constructivism, then I will be discussing them one by one during our next meeting. So this one, I repeat, this one is assignment number 3 because I checked my file. This one is assignment number 3, and I repeat, it has to be put in your folder first. And of course, I repeat my instruction that when you summarize all these concepts, it has to be in your own words. Okay? So that is all for today. I will meet you again next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Thank you and good afternoon.